in the current sphere of things, what exactly does woke mean?
So, at least from the left perspective, it means that you're finally seeing the world for what it is. You're finally seeing that it's not fair. It's like systems of oppression. You are awake to the real system, the how the world really works. That everything that was told to you on the surface was a lie, and that now you are aware of how the world actually works, so that you can actually pinpoint ways that the world is unjust, and you can actually fight it. And so that is kind of how I to understand what the term meant. It's, being critical of everything and seeing things for what they really are. And in a way, being overly critical, seeing the patterns and everything, it's I found it similar to maybe on more centrist or on the right side, like conspiracy theorists, right? Every kind of political spectrum has their own conspiracy theory, and some of them, they might be somewhat right, or they might kind of have actually pinpointed something, and maybe there might be some extraneous theories added onto that kind of take away from the validity of something that they actually did discover that is useful to know, and to know how the world works. But sometimes I think that people kind of go overboard with just figuring out ways of how everything is essentially a scam. Everything is a grift. Everything is a ploy to trick you into participating in something that you actually don't want to participate in, or endorsing a system that you don't actually want to continue. It's kind of like you don't want to be caught in a vicious cycle. Like, for people who have a weight problem and feel bad that they're overweight, so then they overeat to soothe their feelings about being overweight, and it's a vicious cycle. You want to break those cycles, right? You have to pinpoint and figure out what actually is happening and what's wrong in order to break the cycle and to change the world or change your life for the better. But I think that over applying too many patterns to the world and try to make sense of like a cohesive theory of the world that is kind of on a certain level chaotic, I think that kind of goes too far. And I think that the overreach is what I would say the right is looking at. It's types of things of where they see something that has a disparity between whites and blacks, right? And so they conclude, well, the reason why this is in place is to oppress black people, because otherwise they wouldn't have done it. It's intentional. But the reality is it might not be intentional. It just, you can have disparate outcomes without anyone planning for those disparate outcomes to actually happen. And so I think it's that overreach of where people are basically accusing people in bad faith to supporting things for knowing, as if they already knew that outcome was going to happen in the first place, which no one can really know. And so I think that in itself, that aspect of the wokeness is what the right is essentially kind of calling out, because there are quite a few things that, at least from when I talk to the right, they will admit that, oh yeah, this is probably not good, or this is probably, yeah, they have a point in that, right? I absolutely remember Glenn Beck. He actually acquiesced to the phrase Black Lives Matter. He's like, I understand what they're talking about. And he understood what people meant by it, and he understood that the maybe the correct response was that all lives matter. It's like, no, like they are trying to elevate the value of their lives, and they're trying to make a point specifically about Black lives. And he was talking to a group of conservatives. This is a video, right, that I saw, and he was really true. He really did understand, at least at that point in time, and much more innocent time in a way in America, where he's like, he actually was on their level. He actually was on board with the phrase Black Lives Matter. And then I think over time, as all of the other political things got added to it, then it's not necessarily that he's against the ideas of Black lives being valuable, but he now sees all of these political baggage and these associations attached to the phrase now that have made and essentially a core of a good idea kind of gone sour, right? And I think that the souring and overreach of these, the pursuit of these ideas, is what the right is calling out as woke, as it's the overreach of the applications of these theories.
So what you're saying is that the basic instinct for being woke, the basic reasons for being woke, the idea behind being woke is good. There's something there. They have identified a problem that needs to be fixed, that needs to be addressed. But it's the overreach, it's the method that they take in the approach that they take in solving the problems that's the issue. You mentioned something about disparities, okay, that there are disparities between white and black people, which is true, which is apparent there in terms of wealth. For the example that you're making, let's just say that on the average, white people are richer than black people. So that is a problem. What do we do about it? So with the woke people, what they see is that they see that it's intentional, that the fact that black people on the average are less wealthy than white people, that is intentional by the society to maintain that gap, to maintain that wealth gap. And as such, everything must be done to engineer a change where there is parity between both groups. So did I get that as what you were trying to say?
Yeah, yeah. They ascribe an intentional, like, so yeah, you can totally identify a problem. You can totally identify disparities. Statistics are statistics, but the leap that they make after that, as to the real motivations, as if describing motivations to that disparity, and ascribing motivations and intentional design to the convolution of all of the factors that would result in that. And it's kind of like it's a lot. It's as if, like, okay, they intentionally decided for a lot of black people to not have good bank accounts, or they intentionally decided to, prevent black people from learning about by financial health, like to save money. They intentionally designed it so that black people would never get a good education, therefore they would never get a good job. And they intentionally designed it so all the different factors that could, converge to that result, even to the point of, like, oh, let's say a black person has all the prerequisites to get a good job, then they might even kind of describe, then the black person probably won't even get the job unless he's twice as good. And even on that certain level, I kind of doubt that in a certain level. But I think that it's the ascribing of intentionality to these types of things is a bit of a overreach, that would lead to people saying, "Oh, you only support this because you want us to suffer. You want these disparities to happen." And then I think that just completely sours the conversation.